Good morning and welcome to a special meeting of the Ulysses Town Board. It is Monday, September 8th, 2025, and I'll call this meeting to order at 10:01 a.m. We don't have an agenda, but we are just, this is a budget meeting of our draft pre-tentative. First have changed since, not much, but some.
Yeah, I don't think anything's been handed out yet, no. Okay, so that's it, for now. I'm gonna start, so this morning, what our plan is for the first half hour. Is I'm going to review some of the overall assumptions in the budget, which is what I just handed out, is sort of the big picture. And then we're gonna specifically talk about EMS and fire. And then at 10:30, Scott is gonna be there, and we're gonna review all the budgets that to his area of responsibility. So that's the agenda for today. So what I handed out, the big sheet is the overall tax calculations. Oh, I'm sorry, there's a yes on it. And included in that is a budget summary and a summary of the fund balance estimates. Just sort of looking at the. That's right, that should be.
Right.
So. To start with, let's look at this big the tax, the giant page. So this is consistent with what you've seen every year. The format is the same. And on the far right, towards the bottom of the page is where you see the calculation of the tax cap, which is 3.16%, and where this draft tentative budget is, which is right now at 4.39%, about 20,000 over the cap. So that's where we're at the moment. Again, this is a draft tentative budget. So I'm sure a lot of things will move around as we talk through it. But the tax rate overall for the town-wide is going down about 0.5% at the moment in this model. And for fire and EMS, it's going up about 2.8%. So that's where we are overall.
Tax rate's going up 6.4. I'm sorry, percent change.
I'm sorry, what?
You said fire and EMS.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. The overall tax rate is 2.8. Fire and EMS is 6%. Yes. Thank you.
Sorry,
That's all right.
it's the only one I'll catch.
Misspoke. And then the budget summary, this single page, which has the appropriations by fund, the revenues by fund, and the property taxes by fund. You can sort of see how things are moving around by each area. I wanted to point out a couple of things. One, some of the assumptions that are in the appropriations. We have a 3% increase in compensation across the board. There's nothing unusual happening there. That's basically what we put in is close to what the cap is. And benefits, however, are going up much more dramatically. In particular, health insurance is going, I have built in at 18%. I have over 10% estimated an increase in retirement system costs. The current year went up a little over 10% for some of the tiers, a little less for others. So on average, I'm budgeting 10% again, but those rates keep going up quite a bit. The other benefits, I'm assuming increases, but it's hard to know what they're gonna be. Because even though I ask for the data, we don't get it for another month or so. So whether it's retiree health insurance, our dental plan, our disability insurance, things like that. But those are much smaller numbers in the budget, so the changes won't have the impact that the health insurance and the
How much
retirement
is, what
system.
did 18% translate to in dollars?
You know, Rich, you always ask me a question that I can't answer,
I
but.
stay up at night thinking.
But I can get you that answer. I don't have it across the board for all the funds together, but. Get that for you though.
It's substantial.
It is substantial. Let's see, maybe when we have a break, I can find that number for you. So, but those are the assumptions that are in this budget. And I wanted to point out that if you look at the appropriations and reserve additions under by fund, A fund is going down in appropriations and revenues because the big parking lot project is not in there. Whereas in the current year, it's in there. And so it's sort of, and that was mostly grant funded. You don't start till 10:30, so
Yeah.
you're plenty of time.
You're good.
You're us down.
So it sort of, it looks like there's a decrease in the A fund, but it's really just because we had that one-time project in there. Okay,
Yeah.
so in the DA and DB. The numbers, the changes from the anticipated budget look really different for a couple of reasons. One is that we've sort of shifted the allocation of costs between DA and DB, and we'll get into that a little bit more when we go into those budgets. And we're also not going to be doing the county snow removal, so that's another thing that's shifted things around. And also in DB, we have state aid in there, CHIPS money, and we're going to be using a lot more than we had originally anticipated. So both in the current year and next year, we're going to be utilizing up, hopefully, the state funding that's available. So we'll be going into more detail in that as we look at those budgets. But just as an overview, where things look like they're moving around in dramatic ways from year to year as the percentage changes, there's really things aren't changing that much, right? It's just one-time activities or reallocation of funds primarily, so. I think, and then if you look at the fund balance estimates here in the fund balance page, that's the other thing I wanted to point out to you is that we do have some tentative appropriated fund balance. I've done my projections for the current year, and you can see with the fund balance we've appropriated or in the draft budget, where we would land in terms of how much of our fund balance is unused or unappropriated and available for spending in relation to our policy. So in the general fund and in the water district, we're a little bit over policy. In the B fund, we're quite a bit over, but kind of intentionally to allow for unplanned costs and projects that may need to happen in that area. And again, we're not talking about B fund today, but in a future meeting, we'll be discussing that in more detail. So, but in EMS and fire, we're right at where we need to be in terms of fund balance. We're slightly under in DB. So anyway, we're in pretty good shape, basically, with this budget. I realize we still have probably some trimming to do, but anyway, that's just the big picture of where we landed. Okay, I guess the other thing I'll mention is that big revenues overall, like sales tax, I'm anticipating we're going to be over 10% this year. And I've budgeted for a 5% increase over budget for next year. So I'm being a little conservative. I'm not assuming we're gonna keep being over 10% over budget, but last few years we've consistently exceeded our budget, so I'm raising it a little bit. Mortgage tax is another area where I'm raising the budget to be closer to our last 2 years of experience. Again, I think we're gonna be over by $30,000 to $40,000 in the current year. from what we budgeted, so. So those revenues are also built in, so there's, those are some of the big assumptions and, changes from year to year that I've built into this budget. So, is there anything else you wanted to say, big picture? Okay, any questions about this overview?
When you're doing, you said we have to find $39,000.
It's down to 20
Yeah.
because we had some clarity with the fire and EMS numbers. There's a lot of conversation. I had a lot of conversation back and forth with the village on Friday and this morning. So the numbers are, they haven't, there were some calculations that hadn't been done quite accurately, so that got fixed. So we're right now, we're with the very draft, we are $20,000 over, approximately 20,000 over the tax cap. So as we go through, we can trim or offset by fund balance. We have pretty healthy fund balances also. So,
So here are the fire and EMS budgets. Because that's also what we're gonna look at this morning. There's two there, one for you, Scott, since you're here. And, oh, Teresa and Carissa, sorry.
and fire and EMS for the public. I know it's preaching to the choir with the word, but they constitute pretty much almost 42% of the tax that we collect in property tax. So it's a huge amount.
So initially I had put in, I think, 7.5% for fire and 15% for EMS. So the number that you saw preliminarily from Caitlin was higher because we've adjusted these. The fire ended up being slightly higher, but the EMS was substantially less than we had been budgeting for in our draft budget. So that's where the difference is. So looking at this, the fire, based on the village's preliminary data, I guess the meeting is this Thursday, you guys said, where you actually go over it in detail, is at a little over 9%. For EMS, they're looking at almost 9% increase for us. Again, we're phasing in a calculation that takes into consideration the assessed valuation of all of the participating municipalities.
So that's only for fire.
Oh, for
EMS,
fire.
EMS
sorry.
is based on a 3-year rolling average or 3-year average,
Right.
and we're at 35% of call volume.
Right. Of the total.
Of the
yeah.
total. Fire, we are entering into our 4th of a 5-year transition towards what's ultimately 75% assessment based, 25% call volume based. So each of these years, we've seen a noticeable uptick.
Right, due to that adjustment. Yeah.
One change that I think it's probably less impactful this year, even though it's at 9.17% in fire, is that Covert went up to 100% assessment rate. And it had been several years since they had been reassessed. And even though there's a state calculation you use to get to uniform assessed value, every time they go through and reassess anything out here, we see the TAV go up.
Yeah.
So
So, looking at the ambulance billing revenue,
Yes.
it looks really short, because for the 6 months, 28,000.
Right, that was in 6 months, and I don't know if you recall, but I was saying that we didn't receive any of the funding for the new company until August, from January through May. We talked about that at the
We
finance
did.
committee.
So,
yeah.
so what you're
So
saying.
that's not in here,
This
right?
28 is only from the prior bill.
That's
And
correct.
how much have we collected from the new bill?
Our last payment was $20,000, so the total as of now in this account would be about 48, not 27.
Yeah.
So that's the combination of both. It's still preliminary because I only have the new biller through June. I have the existing billing through July, so that's where we're
So
at.
you're comfortable with the 80,
I am comfortable with the 80. It could be higher than that.
right?
It's really hard to predict because we have a new biller And we
Right.
don't have any experience with them. But based on the prior year's data and what I see so far, I'm very comfortable with 80. I'm comfortable with budgeting that amount for next year. It could go up,
Right.
but I'm not comfortable with planning for it to go up higher until we have some experience. So that's where we're at with that. So that does offset a little bit more our money. We also have some interest income because I've invested the cash in this fund. Which I don't think previously had been invested, so there's also some interest income coming in as well.
Are we fully with the new program in?
What do you mean with the?
In the interest?
Not 100%. It's shifting all the time. I just invested more in that as funds mature from the bonds that we were holding. I'm investing them or using the money, because sometimes I need the money,
Mhm.
so to pay bills,
Right, right.
so. But that's all detailed out in my board report as well. You can see how much is in the bonds that we've had
Right.
and how much is in NICLAS. So, so that's where we're at with EMS and fire. So that took a lot less time than I had planned, which is good. Usually the case.
When we go to this meeting, are there any things you want to talk about or question or?
Well, I mean, I think there's been the biggest change in that budget in terms of fire is a $25,000 increase in the amount being set aside for capital equipment. It went from 225 to 250. That obviously it's a
Yeah.
chunk that we're bearing. Because we're, what about 58% of that budget?
Say that again.
That Ulysses pays about 58%.
Yes.
So, of the fire budget, so that's a big increase. I'm sure they're gonna say it's because capital equipment's going up so much. So I'd like to have that conversation. When I reviewed the fire numbers, and I've just got the revised ones, because there was a few discrepancies, so I didn't push them out until it got clarified, so I'll push it out after this meeting. I didn't see huge increases in the fire budget except in reserves. And then we're also in that transition of how it's our share is being determined. And so that's built into that 9%. So that's the biggest question I had. Otherwise, I didn't see a lot of changes in that. EMS they're seeing some of the same pressures we are with healthcare costs. And there were changes in fire and police retirement costs also that we don't factor in, but it's factored into their budget. So I saw a jump in that line also.
Right. Just like the employees' retirement system rates are going up. Police and fire, I'm sure, are going up even more, is my guess.
So
Retirement system rates, because their benefits are different and they have shorter times that they have to work to be eligible for full benefits because of the nature of their work.
So I think, I mean, one of the things is that, the idea of being able to sustain a nearly 9%, sometimes years it's been higher than that percentage change in EMS is really, really hard.
Yeah.
And I think this is bigger than just the Trumansburg Ambulance Company. I mean, we're looking at numbers of 15 to 20% of Ulysses calls to the Trumansburg Fire Company are leaving the ambulance. I'm sorry, the number 15 to 20% of calls for EMS are outside the area that pays for it. Because we have a mutual aid agreement. Right. And so historically, right, Bing's backfilled us. And now it's become, we're backfilling a private ambulance company. Dryden is in worse shape from a call volume. 40% of their calls are outside their jurisdiction. I don't want Trumansburg to get to the point where we're at 40%, because quite honestly, the city of Ithaca residents do not pay for ambulance service in their taxes. We do, right? And they have a private company that has been there. And so ambulance has been an issue in terms of how it's appropriate to fund it. But the COVID and the last several years have really put a tremendous pressure on how much these budgets are and how much they're increasing sustainable this model is. And so we're seeing at the TCOG level, I have never in my 4 years on TCOG seen so much agreement among municipalities, but on the subject of ambulances, in terms of representatives sharing concerns about ambulance services and wanting, I would say almost universally, the county to take a lead responsibility in helping us solve this local problem. Because you have municipalities, Enfield to our south, southwest, who doesn't have ambulance service, and they're looking at 26-minute response times. We do have this county program, the rapid response vehicle, to get someone on site faster, but they're not capable of transport. So you still have to have an ambulance company or local publicly funded company show up to do transport. It's not a functional model. And year after year, we're seeing increases. And I've been very vocal that I don't think it's fair to Ulysses residents to be paying for, frankly, municipalities who aren't paying into an ambulance service also. And it's not because I understand that some of our neighbors quite honestly don't have the ability financially to pay for it. Because of their TAVs are lower than ours. And I want them to get services, but in the same way we support the countywide sheriff's department, there have to be countywide solutions to ambulance services, because this isn't sustainable. I can't believe Dryden's putting up 40% calls outside their district. So, and I don't want Ulysses to get into that position, because we pay a significant share
Right.
of it. So there has been talk at the state level. There's been bills that have been introduced about ambulance services, about pushing counties to take over some degree of responsibility for ambulance services. And AOT, our AOT proudly announced as one of their main accomplishments in the last budget was preventing that from happening. Because there are so many towns who don't want countywide ambulance services. It doesn't have to be that the county runs the ambulance service, but that it's recognized they're the natural entity to do a fair taxation to fund ambulance services that serve everybody in the same way we do it with the sheriff's department. But right now we're in a have and have not situation, and it's not good for anybody. Not good for the people paying, not good for the people whose towns can't afford to pay, and not great if you need an ambulance and you're a Ulysses taxpayer and the ambulances are outside a district and you call 911.
Are they showing their income for those out of district calls?
Is who is showing it?
Well, they're fully funded by those of us that are paying for the district, right?
Yes, their bills are that.
Yeah. So now they're making income on outside district calls.
Sometimes a lot of the income isn't, there's a lot of times there's not income made to it though. So a lot of times Ulysses or Trumansburg and Dryden are the second ambulance on site. If they don't transport, they don't bill. So we pay for that. That gets paid for regardless.
Right,
And in the same way we make
They
revenue.
do
on our
have some
phone.
income because they're
Sometimes,
transporting
yeah.
patients.
Does the village show what that is?
No, it's not broken out in this.
It's not broken.
Never
So
has
they
been.
just keep.
Yeah.
The village just keeps their revenue. And that's not fair. We should bring that up.
Welcome to. We keep our revenue also.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
But we're paying for the equipment.
We're paying a portion of the equipment. As are they. As are,
we're paying
Every-
58%.
no, not on fire, we don't. I'm sorry, on EMS, we don't. On fire, we're paying 58%. And our fire department, it largely stays in district.
But our call volume is 53%.
Our call volume is 35%.
Oh, 35%, right.
We're paying 35% of the EMS budget.
Yeah. So we're not paying the share that is attributed to the outside calls. I mean, that's the other piece of it, because that 35% is a percent of total calls, including the ones that go out of the area. So we're only paying for ours,
Yes, we pay for
where I pay for our share of that.
Yes,
in the budget.
Right, but the budget is based on what their annual cost is.
Correct.
Everything out of the district is profit for them.
if there's
Because,
profit made.
well, sure, there's profit made.
Well, no, if there's profit made, not every call generates income in the same way that every call they respond to in Ulysses doesn't generate profit. Like they show up to a site, and this happens all the time, right? They show up to a property, they help somebody stand up who's fallen, and then they leave. There's no,
But that's what we pay for our residents. Right, of the 400 and whatever it is, or $531,000, that's what we pay for our residents. Or if they fall down, if there's a traffic accident or whatever, a fire, we pay for that. But and so they're fully funded by the districts that are paying for them. So everything out of district is not in the budget, so it's pure profit for them.
Well,
if there's profit
Yeah.
made from it, if they go to a second call and they don't transport anybody, there's no
well,
billing.
shouldn't that be reported? Shouldn't we understand what those numbers are?
To have at it, I'm pushing for us to stay as much in district as possible.
Right,
And what changes can we make to stay in district as much as possible?
yeah, but along with that. There's revenue somewhere in there. And if we're not seeing the numbers, we don't understand how much
But
revenue is being generated by the out of district as much.
True. but the percentage of the cost associated with those outside calls is not being borne by any of the municipalities.
Sure it is. You're paying for the salaries, you're
Well,
paying
we're
for the
paying
equipment.
our share, we're paying 35%.
Right, but.
Yeah, but it's based on Ulysses has a share, the village has a share,
Right, but it's
Overton has
based
a
on
share,
call volume.
that fully funds it. Right,
Right,
the part of the budget model is not outside entities.
correct,
Right.
however, if
We
you
would be
looked at the
paying-
calculation. If it's strictly by call volume, then we're paying our percentage of the total calls of the total budget. So the percentage of the total calls that are outside the area, I'm not sure who's paying that percent of the budget.
Well, we should,
Just see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So that could be just absorbed by the EMS budget. In which case,
it's gonna go to the village.
right, but so the cost is being absorbed as well, is what I'm saying, not just the revenue. So I don't know, we know that our cost is much higher than the revenue we get, so I don't know, I'm just saying. That I don't know that it follows that it's definitely, they're making money on it. It would be helpful to know,
Well,
But,
the fact
yeah.
that we don't know, we should know.
right?
So we should make sure we know, because who knows how much it is.
The other thing too is it's not like you only pay for ambulance. You have to create a budget based on, even if nobody uses the service, this is how much it's gonna cost. You're gonna pay salaries
Sure.
based on whether they go to 5 calls that day or they go to no calls that day. You're still paying that ambulance employee the exact same amount. So the budget is based on having as many rigs as we have and as many employees as we have. And so that's, and then our share of that total cost is based on how many calls we have.
Yeah.
On a 3-year average, and we saw an uptick in the number of calls. I mean, the reality is that, the Teaneck State Park is a significant driver of ambulance calls. It's a huge population in the summer. There's, if you look at at least at the county scanner, there's calls there a fair amount. So, yeah, so the budget is not based on people actually leaving. Yes, there are associated costs, gas and things like that, wear and tear on vehicles long term, but you're paying for that person regardless. You're driving revenue. So I think one of the things we need to look at internally is, are we collecting sufficient revenue? And there are ways to I think internally we need to look at that. Because if we're not seeing a 10% increase in revenue and we're, if we're experiencing an 8 to 10% on average increase in the costs, then that's all getting borne by the tax base. So we approach billing differently than, say, Bangs does, private company does. But it is. Should probably move on to Scott stuff.
Yep, I was just bringing up that budget because. I should have had. I'm looking at mutual aid. So. Okay. Sorry, I just want to make sure I understood how it was working. Thank you.
Okay, well, bring your questions to Thursday.
All right. Anything else on the overall budget or those questions? Okay.
You're just at 20,000 over right now, right, for the overall.
Correct.
Yeah.
So we're gonna start with A. Here's for you and Teresa.
Was it 6:30 Thursday?
Yes.
That's mine.
So we're gonna, so we're doing all
There's
of,
two of them there.
Oh, there is. Two races.
so we're gonna go over all of Scott's area today. And so you have the A fund in front of you, but we're not gonna be looking at anything except for the 5010 and 5132 in this budget, which is on page 1 mostly at the bottom. There's not a lot, just giving you a quick overview, there's not a lot of change here. Other than it's all on page 1, actually. Other than there's a project that Scott wants to do in the highway barn.
Yeah, the cold storage. We need to get more, we need to get new doors up there. And I figured, it's gonna be about $20,000 probably, because there's 3 doors. So
Automatic.
I don't think so. I'd be nice to, but I don't think I have enough in there for that. I may have to just buy the motors or something later. But right now, those doors are pretty bad, and I have them up a couple of years ago. During COVID, I was gonna base on them. Yeah.
How many are there?
Hmm,
How many are there?
3. But other than that, yeah, everything's pretty much the same
Yeah.
as
Yep.
it was last.
So there's really not much to say here about changes from year to year. Unless anybody has any specific questions about these lines. I will say again, I know I did reallocate salaries slightly between areas based on how people are actually spending their time. But in the overall budget, the same number of people at the same percentage of time with a 3% salary increase is what's budgeted. So when you see the admin salary going up more than 3%, it's just because I put more hours in this budget. Because that's how they're spending their time. Not because their salary is going up 24%.
Oh, yeah, we got that.
You strong down there.
No, yeah.
Yeah, so we have purchases of AEDs that are gonna be happening this year. Both for here and for the highway barn, but we don't actually have them yet, I don't believe, or maybe are they here? I think we've ordered them.
Yeah.
But yeah, they need to.
But we have enough money in our equipment budgets for the current year to afford to pay for them, so. So that's it for Scott's budget in the A fund. You got this, obviously, we'll be talking about this budget again at another meeting, the rest of it, but. So the next thing I'm going to hand out is DA.
Okay.
The one thing that I would like to comment in this budget is that we did build in an amount for an engineering study that would be needed if we were to be able to do the next culvert on Curry Road. So this amount includes the required engineering study and the application, the fee for completing a grant application. So depending on how things go, this may happen in 2026 or not, depending on whether our current application gets funded. But that particular amount is being fully funded with fund balance. So it's not adding to the tax increase in this budget.
You say Garrett?
Curry Road.
It's Curry Road, yeah, it's a
It's
double
just-
culvert,
It's a double culvert, yeah.
and it's a big boy. So that's why 50,000 is what's. To do the engineering work necessary to go after the money. But that'll be, I mean, I would be surprised, quite honestly, if we're fortunate in our grant application the second year in a row. For the quit money. We may have to go for another round with the same one that we're doing.
I know, I almost said that about Maplewood too, and we got
I
it.
know.
So one west of Waterbury.
Oh,
Yeah.
the pace
So when you get to
Yeah,
South Street, the end with the T's, still take a right.
but we'll know in December, we won't know until December whether or not we got it, so we're gonna plan, and if we don't use it, we don't use it, we just have more fund balance.
So the rest of this, Scott, I don't know if you wanna talk about any of the things in particular. I know the amount under machinery is consistent with what's in the capital plan
Yeah,
that the board looked at a month ago or so.
yeah. So that's pretty, that's
Remind me what you're getting in that
for this year,
for next year.
was a 1 ton,
Right,
yeah,
right, the truck, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And this year I have noted that we have excavator.
Yeah. The truck, we're not sure, yeah, what we're doing there, but, I think we are gonna get the, sorry.
It's in person.
I think we are gonna get the RAV4. But that all just depends on when you guys get the electrifier, and that RAV4 replace the water truck.
What do you tell the morning?
We had the water truck, my truck, the 1 ton.
You're gonna get rid of the water.
Yeah, we'll get rid of that, but,
Isn't that what tells the? Isn't that what tells the zero turn?
we use that, we can, yeah, but we use the 1 ton more often now, that,
Does the water truck go away?
that'll go away, and then we're gonna get a 1 ton next year. But we're gonna have, it's not gonna be a utility truck, but it'll have more opportunities to put stuff in there for like water stuff and.
Like a service box.
Yeah, so,
Will it have a service body or? Will it have a service body on it?
I might have to look into it. Some of them can get expensive. I get a used one. But new ones are insane.
Okay.
But what's that, Rich?
I was just looking at snow removal. On the PA 5148. In terms of. Year to date, we've expended 67,441. That's through June, but the end of your projection is 75. So that only gives you $8,000 for now through the end of December.
Well,
December.
for one of the funds, right?
Yeah.
There's two funds, so if you add those two together.
Well, these are both, right, you're
Yeah.
right, they're separate, so if you look at 5142 and 5148 together,
Hmm.
that's what we're looking at,
Yeah,
so it's times 2.
They're not the same, I mean times two.
So 5142.4 has the same numbers as 5148.4.
Oh,
Is it split between,
I got, yeah, I see that, but it's still, even if you combine them, it's still only.
right,
yeah, so right now I have a full barn of salt from last year, well, last winter.
Okay.
So I will use that to get through the end of the year.
Okay.
And then if I have to order like another 250 tons, there's enough money in there
Okay.
to do that.
and will you be doing the county roads this winter?
No, so normally we have a contract with the county. I'm sure you're familiar with it. Every 3 years, we sign a contract with Tompkins County to do their roads.
Right.
Um, the last few years, we have not been given enough money to do the
Right.
job. So I reached out to the county last year at some point and asked them if they could give us more money. And I showed them how much money I think we would need. And Jeff Smith, who was
Yeah.
the boss at the time, he looked it over and he wrote back in an email saying that they'll just take over the roads. So
Okay.
so we're not contracted with them anymore. So
Right.
that saves some money. So
Well, it'll save money in equipment because there's
Yeah.
now a vehicle that the town doesn't need to purchase.
right.
And it'll save money on the salt barn. We have to
Get
do,
us all.
we're supposed to do the salt barn by the end of this decade. And we can get by with a smaller salt barn.
Yeah.
So there will be some pretty sizable cost savings.
Still overtime too.
Yeah, overtime. Most of our overtime
How
is
many
because
miles
of
is
the county. 38, I think, something like that.
yeah, so in this budget, I did lower the amount of overtime overall,
Yeah.
we're anticipating. It's hard to predict at the moment, but
But always, yeah.
But we did take it back a bit because of the not having the accountants.
So you'll still have excellent service on our town roads, county roads.
Who knows?
Not sure yet. That's something we'll have to see,
Just be aware as soon as you turn on the county road,
pretty much. So I don't know. I think they'll be all right.
not that from time for it though.
We'll see. So that was one of the big news items.
Also, I think we've agreed that we're looking at how people spend their time and we're allocating
Yeah.
the compensation benefits a little differently between DA and DB, and also the Water District 3. In terms of how Scott's staff actually spend their time. Some of time is also allocated to for maintenance of this building or for mowing around the highway barn. Cemeteries and parks. So any of the support that DPW gives to those other areas, there's some allocation of staff time to those. Those are pretty small, those are pretty minor. So the most of it is in DA, DB and SW3 for Scott's staff, which is what I'm focusing on. And the benefits as well. So the benefits are being allocated by the same percentage. So so when you see shifts in some of the compensation benefits, it's not that we have a different number of people, they're just, their time is being
Yeah.
reported.
Do you still do those or do they fill out their own time cards?
Oh, I still break everything down. Yeah, I mean, so.
Yeah, so I get a detailed breakout with payroll. And I did some analytics of last year and this year to date, and Scott and I worked on that, and I think we're in agreement. We're just gonna try to keep an eye on it because his staff is really doing quite a few different things.
Yeah.
So we want to keep track of that. So.
I mean, other than that, it really hasn't changed much. I accounted for, people's salaries that have gone up. There's a few funds that I raised from last year, but not really. I try to keep the budget.
What did we,
You know.
what is we agreed to on the salaries with the union? I forgot.
It's a little,
Yeah.
slightly over.
I think this year and next year is 3.5, I think,
I don't think it's that high,
not that high.
cause it's a dollar. I mean, you know what I mean? It's a dollar amount, not a percentage, so. It's $1 an hour. So it's slightly over 3%, but it's very close. And so most of the compensation is pretty consistent throughout this budget in terms of how much it's going.
Does this health insurance line include the
Yep.
anticipated
It
18%?
does. It does include it. So things might look,
That's insane.
Yeah.
so what's interesting is this health insurance looks like it's going down, but it's not, because you're gonna see a much bigger increase in DB. It's just how I'm
Yeah,
allocating.
yeah.
It's not really going down.
No.
You know, speaking of which. I can't believe that. I think we should look at the health insurance again and make sure. Competitive with. Other
Well, I think they spell us just Blue Cross Blue Shield, and we don't have to go into too much here, but I think they were looking at like 21% increases from last year. Or, B2 and B3.
And the base package is the premium, I'm sorry, the platinum family plan. Or the consortium's about $1,000 less than the Blue Cross and Blue Shield. Plus their 21% fees. So I actually set aside time on the agenda for tomorrow to discuss if we want to delve into it. If you have any specific questions, we can try and get those answered before that meeting.
It hasn't been approved yet. 25th, no, September 25th.
When you send out the things for the health insurance. And like if you're gonna do it or not.
The letters soon, but I don't have the rates yet for the dental and other stuff, so I should have them, I'm thinking by late September. And then by early October, I'll be sending out the inquiries to everybody about their plans for the coming year. And when we look at DB, you'll see that we also have some contingency set aside if somebody were to change their plans. So, but on the second page of the DA budget is your revenues. Sales tax budgeted here is going up 7%, because I think I have a slightly higher allocation here. I've actually only budgeted for a 5% increase in sales tax overall. We are planning to sell an item, so when we buy an item. That truck you're buying, you're gonna be selling an existing one, so there's some revenue in here for sales of a vehicle. And then there's $60,000 of appropriated fund balance, most of which is to fund that study. So if the study doesn't happen, then we don't use the fund balance. But there is a total of 60 appropriated, and then the overall tax rate in this fund is going up to 6%, not tax rate, tax levy.
The sales tax is the old DA 1120.
That's correct.
So again, we've only collected for it.
As of June 30th,
You've
that's
collected,
what was in there.
you've
right.
collected through what months?
I believe at June, we might have been through May.
Only one. But the-
I'm still projecting that we're gonna be 10% over budget.
Do we get that much extra for the last 6 months of the year?
Well, it's all based on how much of the revenue we earn at the point of year that we're in and how it compares to the last 6-year average. So yes, I believe that that's a reasonable number based on the calculation. I can always bring all of my estimates and calculations to our next budget meeting, so you can look at them in more detail. I know I've shared them at the finance
Yeah.
committee meetings.
It'd be good to see them. From them.
Yep.
'Cause this is anticipating a much larger increase in sales. In the last 6 months of the year. Just number.
Okay,
So number wise. It's a big increase. I'm sort of do 10% over.
It's,
yeah, but we will,
It will.
and it could be better than that.
Beginning
10% is conservative.
Here.
That's why I don't know. So
Yeah,
it's
it's
just
just
like
a-
it was 5 minutes a year.
looks good for me.
You're basing it on the last 6 years of. That's-
Oh,
Yeah, it would be good to look at the detail.
okay. We can do that.
We're expecting less money from the state. It looks like. DA 2302, is that what that is?
That is the county.
County,
Yeah, okay.
we're not doing the county contract.
Oh, right,
That's the eliminated.
I mean, we're
That's
gonna
what I-
earn our
okay.
full contract for the current year,
Right.
but we're not going to
Okay.
be
The county.
getting anything more.
You didn't really get anything this year, you know?
No, I know, the contract itself was pretty small,
Yes.
half of last year's,
Mhm.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
So, what if they asked you they got in a pinch? The cost per mile that they say,
The
gosh.
cost per mile is like between $3,000 and $4,000. But it depends. Let's just put it that way. I would say
There's yeah,
But if they had to, yeah, they'd reach out to me and I don't know what we would do. We'd figure something out, but hopefully that doesn't happen.
Yep,
this is a new guy there, right?
Mhm.
There's a new guy.
There's a
there.
new guy.
Yeah.
Well, they haven't hired anybody yet. I don't need to.
we're an interim, right?
I think so. I think Nick was the
Oh,
second in charge. And I think he went out
Yeah,
and most likely will hire somebody outside of the county. That'd be my guess. So there is a possibility that they may come back to us.
yeah.
Um,
But still, there's. Let's say put another truck on.
yeah, they're gonna have to put another truck on,
Yeah.
maybe two.
They do the
Gotta be a
same with
lot.
Newfield?
Hmm?
They do the same with Newfield?
We have not
Yeah, I don't.
had a contract ever, or not in recent years had a contract with the county. They
And
do
Bill
all
doesn't
that
either.
else.
And they gotta play ball with us the way they do with Lansing. They want,
Yeah, Lansing and
I
Dryden
vote on a contract.
and Groton, those guys definitely do the county roads and we used to, but now we don't, but. That's pretty much it. Town of Ithaca does their own. There's only Dryden, Groton, Lansing.
Caroline does.
Oh,
Caroline,
that's right.
Caroline and Danby do, but they just send the county a bill of how much it costs and the county just pays it. That was not how they were working with us. So your cost came in at what, 86,000, something like that, and they
Yeah,
for 2024, and they gave us 33.
30 something. We're closer to 100.
Yeah, it's just not worth it.
Well,
So
that seems ridiculous.
I was glad that they came back and.
I was
said,
real,
"Nice
right?
to have somebody." All right. Perfect.
Okay, anything else on the DA? Sorry. DB. Review. Review.
Thank you.
On review. So just
road maintenance and
Yeah,
budget.
I think the significant change is just I've added a lot more chips, cause I was saving it up. Because it's, at one point, I thought maybe I could buy a truck, um, with the chips money. Um. But it's just, it's too difficult, and you, I mean, you gotta save up to close to $500,000, and, I came close to that. But now I think, you know, I'd rather use that for roads and stuff, and I think with Blixie's help, we did a good job with the capital plan, so. Um. I kinda wanna use up as much as I can with the chips before they take it away. I don't think they will, but you never know.
So the 250 for this year is what you're planning for this year,
Yes,
right?
this year, yeah.
And
Next
that's
year, yeah,
more than what we had originally thrown in there. So, but it goes up on revenue and expense the same, right?
yeah,
It doesn't affect the bottom line. And the amount of state aid remaining carried over, plus what your allocation, we'll think your allocation is gonna be for next year is 485.
Yeah.
So that's if you were to use it all.
right.
Whether you
Yeah,
can use it all or not is another matter.
yeah,
But the revenue and expense offset one another, so it doesn't, you know.
you know, we can, just to throw this out there, I mean, I think, I'm not 100%, but I can look into this. Buddy, for MRB, for that Curry Road, I don't know if I can use chip for that or not.
I don't think so.
I don't either, but I guess I could
You can
ask that,
ask.
yeah,
It doesn't hurt to ask,
right.
but I don't think.
For the culverts?
For this.
I can
study,
for replace, yeah, for the study, I can replace them, and I can do all that, and I know that that's reimbursable, but I didn't know about a study.
Yeah, I'm not sure about an engineering
Right.
study.
I
I
don't know.
don't think it would pay for that.
Yeah, so I can look into that.
Yes. I would be interested to know what they say.
Right,
Um,
but I mean, really, there's nothing really changed, except for I'm asking for more chips money, so.
mhm.
And then we did change a little bit with the payroll,
Right,
right, you know, because it was a little higher, but,
right.
um. Other than that, it's pretty much the same.
Did you already say, I don't know if anybody asked, do you know which roads you're looking at? You're earmarking for your paving next year?
Um. Yes and no, and I don't have the information in front of me.
Are those repaving or the oil and stone?
What I've been doing is, so what I do now is I put binder down and then I put, a micropave over it to seal it. And that will last a lot longer, number one. And then within a 10-year span, I can just seal it again. And then that's a 10-year plan, and then I can just keep sealing it, you know, for the next 10 years after that, as long as the road stays in good condition. But if you put binder down first, it'll last a lot longer, whereas before, all we ever really did was oil and stone roads, and it's fine, but the winter, all the farmers, everything, it just kind of ruins it after a while, and you gotta build it out. So
Is that what you just did on Cold Springs
yes,
last week?
yeah,
Or on half of Cold Springs?
yeah, half of Cold Springs,
Okay.
so that's what I've been doing, to try to make things last longer. The way that CHIPS is set up too is like a 5-year plan. So that's what they kind of want you to do, is a 5-year plan. 5 or 10 years, so that's pretty much what I've been doing.
The only other thing I'd say about this particular budget is that last year we continued to appropriate some funds for a capital reserve, which, I mean, you could fund that for a long time before it felt like. I don't think we have a goal specifically for that particular thing, because it's really about road maintenance or repair, and that could be a big number and so forth, but I did not fund it this year, based on the amount of fund balance that was available. So I only appropriated what was needed to balance the fund, so the appropriated fund balance from last year to this year is lower. By about that much. Little less, but. So that's something the board could choose to continue funding. I don't know that I'd recommend it this year, just because. We're not, we're right around in the middle of our range
Mhm.
for the fund balance policy as it is. I mean, so we could appropriate more, but. That's a choice we have. We're, because we do have some that we could appropriate, but we don't have a huge cushion there. So if something unusual happened, that's. Anyway, that's a possibility. At what I have in them. Sometimes I keep trouble keeping track of which fund is which. Yeah. I'm not changing what I said. Okay, so
So is
that's
this balance? This is just.
Yeah, everything's
is balanced.
balanced, but the summary sheet is in the stuff I handed you, Liz, and so it's balanced, but we're 20,000 over the cap
Yeah, total,
total.
Yeah.
Right,
this,
but everything is balanced that you see, and that contributes to that total number. So. All right,
I would suspect that most of the cut will come out of aid fund. When we, because my. Well, a combination of cuts and or fund balance of a fund. Because I don't see any reason why we can't get under the tax cap this year.
How come this year's so much easier than this one?
Well, we went through a couple of things. We saw a sizable increase across fire, EMS collectively and union contract last year. That put a lot of pressure. And we were doing some capital projects and big projects.
we also did a market study.
Yes.
And a wage adjustment.
And adjusted that.
For quite a few positions last year. That's not happening this year, because we got to where we needed to be in terms of. The area market.
Yeah.
For positions that were
Yeah.
hired.
But so the increase in just DPW last year in the union contract. We could only go up, I think it was $35,000 above the tax cap last year. I'm sorry, we could only go up an additional $35,000 to stay under the tax cap last year. Something like that. It was approximate, and basically just the union contract alone ate that amount. So, and we just, we made decisions that to be prudent, and our revenue this year, or revenue for 2025 has been
Strong,
strong.
stronger than anticipated.
Yeah.
So,
So we're headed into 2025 or 2026.
in a good position.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've gotten to the point where recreation, and I mean, it's an A fund, recreation is almost completely paying for itself. There's a little bit that the taxpayer base is still paying for, split between the town and the village. But revenues from 2023 revenues were 119, approximately 118, 119, and it's being projected to be 144 for next year, because we just have so much participation in programs. Programs are, there's revenue creation. And so that really helps. Recreation's not a huge part of the budget, but DPW is. So when that went up last year, that had a huge impact on the budget.
All right, so the last thing for today, are we on time? Yes, we are. Yeah, okay. We're ahead of schedule. Is the Water District 3, and there's 3 here. There. One here,
I think there's three actually still in the. Maybe not. No, it's not. That's right.
I have just enough. Um. Where do I start with this? I guess maybe I'll start with a quick overview that, Scott and Carissa and I spent quite a bit of time reviewing the water usage, our loss calculations, and, looking at billings and how all that's working. And I know last year we were having some difficulty trying to identify where a leak was. Since then, that's been identified and rectified. And so going forward, I think we're feeling pretty much more confident about how, we're calculating the cost of water as well as, the revenue that we're gonna be receiving from billings. And how much the water loss is going to be. The cost of water has a 5% rate increase built in from the town. So, that's the estimate that we have. I don't know for sure, whether that's gonna be true or not, but Krista got that information, right? Yep. To anticipate 5%.
And is this just me moving around things, the operator PS? That's only 39.63 year to date. We're projecting 20,000 for the year.
Right, I'm thinking Scott's planning on assigning more time to that, but
Oh, you're looking at this year?
so he's looking
Yeah,
at the current year,
Yeah,
so that's SW3 8240.1. Right, and as of June, we had only spent 3963.
we've spent more since then.
We have spent more since then.
And we still, yeah, we'll.
The 20,000 budget, spending the whole budget, we may not, but Scott wanted to assume that we would.
Mm,
But this
So-
is for operator right now.
This is for Scott's
For
staff,
everybody.
all the people he assigns to it. So not Scott, but any staff on his team that he assigns to it. It could be more than one person. Any work they do in the water district gets charged here.
How many people have gone through water school?
Well, everybody's gone through water school, and there's 3 people that have their license right now,
The next,
so.
it was a couple of years ago now that they went, right? And then they had the license period, that's
You have to
awesome.
wait a year now to get your license. Work underneath someone that has one. Even though I get into school, they changed it a little bit, which is good. So Danny is up for his, I think, this year to get his license.
That's great. That's a big shift from how the department was managed just a few years ago, so.
So do you have one person? There's only one person previously?
Yeah. Or there's one this year, and I don't know if Bill will ever get his, cause he's more of a
Can I?
mechanic, yeah. So.
There is, I feel like, we did put in some funding here for an engineering study. It's kind of a guess right now. Do you want to
It
talk about
is,
that?
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I did ask Matt, but I don't, but anyways, what I was wanting to do was to get some help to uh do like a future planning. A future plan of, what we should be doing for the next 15 years, like a standard operation. Procedures for the next, 10, 15 years or whatever. So I asked Matt that, but I don't know. Like he wanted to piggyback off of what you guys were doing. I guess you guys were even press or thinking about doing something that was, Indian Port Road. Some study out there, and I'm like, well, I just kind of like, man, I figured that I didn't want to do that. So I don't know if we want to do it or not, but that's one thing that I would like to do, but I haven't really reached out to anybody but Matt. About who could do it.
Yeah, I think it needs to be an independent thing, because those are two very
related.
Yeah.
no
Right.
at all. No.
Well, then we also have some data that Carissa shared. Of what had been done in the past.
Yeah,
this
we do.
water
We
district?
have some stuff now.
Yeah, and so we also want to make sure that we're utilizing that as a starting point as opposed to starting from scratch. Right.
Yeah. No.
So maybe another conversation with him
Yeah, I can
would
do
be in
that.
order.
I can do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I really support your desire to do that, because I think it'd be really useful from a planning perspective on how much money we should be stocking wage reserves based on some like tangible benchmarks and expectations we have about that district
Yeah.
infrastructure. Because we've been moving, is Lacey, would you mind like talking a little bit about how the shift that we've been gradually making from the appropriation of cost, or the charges, charging the water user
Oh,
versus
yes.
the tax base.
Actually, I have that right here.
There you go. Thanks for helping me find the right word. I appreciate it.
This is sort of a different look at this. I with my fingers. So this is a high level summary of the Water District 3 budget. On the top part, and I've split out what we're characterizing as operating costs from capital costs and overhead. So operating costs being the actual water purchases, the cost of maintaining and operating the system, and costs related to the actual delivery of the water and the water purification. So that's what's in operating costs. And right now, for the water purchases, again, you can see here what I'm budgeting is a 5% increase over the current year. Then there's capital costs, which include this engineering study, and administration, equipment, benefits, and additions to reserves, because we are building reserves at this point since our debt service is paid. And then you have revenues, and the idea being that the operating revenues, meaning what we're charging people, plus any other miscellaneous charges or sales and interest income, would all go toward operations, and the rest would be the tax levy. The taxes would be paying for the capital or infrastructure costs or overhead. So right now, we are not charging enough to cover all the operating costs of this district from the users. We would I calculated we would have to raise the rate by another 250 per thousand, which we're not doing because we're already raising it 8% because it incorporates the 5% increase in the water cost and a 3% increase in our piece. So, but this just gives you a sense of how the district is being paid for, you know, with users versus taxpayers. So we're moving in the direction of trying to have the usage costs cover the cost of delivering and
I know,
purchasing
but
water.
I thought that the people in the district pay for the tax recharge. The tax
There are
levy,
people in the district who aren't actually using the water, they're still using their own well.
right, so they don't pay,
They pay
They
taxes.
They
still
pay
pay,
but they don't pay for any water,
Correct.
right? So you're saying,
I'm not sure what you're
you
asking.
were saying
There's
that,
still a difference with that.
What I'm saying is that what we bill out for the people who are actually using the water,
right,
right, doesn't cover the actual cost of purchasing the water
Okay,
and
that's-
delivering the
right,
water,
so where's the rest of the money coming from?
the tax levy.
And then the tax levy for water or total pound,
For water,
Right,
it's
just the
just the
water.
water district.
right, self-contained,
That's correct.
Your tax bills are not paying for
Right.
that.
Right, it's only people within the water district.
right,
But the idea would be that the people who are in the water district who are paying taxes, the taxes would be for the infrastructure being there.
Right.
And that the user fees would be for the actual water usage, so it would be geared towards how much water someone's actually using. That's the idea behind it. Prior to this, the debt was
Yeah.
also incorporated and the taxpayers were also covering all the debt.
Right.
Now that tax levy in that fund has gone down dramatically
Right.
because the debt was big. But there are still some costs, including builders, so that in the future we have funds to do more infrastructure upgrades.
Right.
So that's how it breaks out, and the idea would be to get the water usage rate to a level where it's covering the cost directly associated with using water. And so that's where we're at. I mean, it's not a terrible difference, but obviously we don't want to raise our rates too dramatically in 1 year. But we've been shifting in that direction a little bit for the past couple of years. And of course, the town of Ithaca rates are going up quite a bit. And our comparative share, not as much, but still shifting in that direction, so. That's just the analysis that I did in an effort to kind of look at that.
So is this 5% set or could that change?
It could change.
And if it
That's what
goes
they
up,
told
do we
us.
have additional?
No.
So if it
5%.
goes 6%,
Well, if it goes to
5%
6%
is-
before you approve the budget,
yeah,
I can adjust it
Yeah.
if you want me to.
no, I'm just curious.
Yeah,
We haven't had that issue before. I think they finalized their rates. before,
well,
yeah.
yeah, I think it was slightly different. They finalized their rates to what I had budgeted. The 9.91, I think I budgeted something slightly less than that, but it was close.
I'm just,
So it depends on when we know.
sure. Sure.
Scott, how much are you estimating on the study? Is that the
10,000.
10,000? Did you get an estimate from, is that just a ballpark, or did you have an estimate from NRB?
That was just a ballpark on my. My. I'll try to get all that done before the end of the day. I'll have to get done here.
So the one I would think about we should reach out to is, well, what's it called?
Rural water.
Rural,
Yeah,
no,
that's-
rural water, that's what I was thinking of. It was, the other entity. They were at the Water Source Protection Committees. Becky Sims, I'm blanking on the acronym.
Not DEC, it's
No.
not DOH,
No,
RDA. Rural
No.
Development.
no. You know who I'm talking about though,
I
right?
do know, yes, but I don't know
because-
either, but I do know. this.
Because I would talk to them, I'm wondering if they might have some, and rural water, to see if somebody could help us do this, because they might help us be able to do the high level work and save the money on.
RCAP.
Thank you, RCAP Solutions. Yay, gold star.
Yeah, 'cause she was the health department and she went and
Yep.
service, yes, I know, but I can't remember the name either.
It's so it's RCAP Solutions and Becky
Oh,
Sims
okay.
is there, yeah. And if you don't have her contact information, we do. But I know that they were really helpful with, they've been really helpful with municipal water systems. With grant writing and things like that, and advice, so they might be a place to start to see. Because if we could drop that number, that would start eating into our 20,000, we gotta get under.
Okay. I don't know that I have a lot else to say about this. Other than I think we're pretty solid at our calculations of water usage and loss. And have that under control.
I mean, other than the water break we had. I think everything's been going pretty smooth.
Yeah.
Um,
No.
our numbers are good with the health department, with everything, so.
It's great.
Things have been going okay.
Yeah. How's the remote metering working for you guys when you're?
So far, so good. It's a lot easier. It's about 3 hours, or 2 to 3 hours it takes to read the meters, which is. a lot
What
better
did it
than
used to take?
Well, it depends. If Chris did it by himself, it would take, about a day, but if he had help, then, just under a day.
Right.
Well,
Hmm.
yeah, because back then you had to walk to every single one and scan it.
Right.
I'm glad that I wasn't really bad thing.
How many do you know between, you guys know how many, I mean, I'm sure you do have actual numbers, but approximately how many folks are still on?
Yeah, there's like maybe 5 or 6. It's not that many. And then if we catch them, like if we're doing it, the readings and we catch them at home, I try to knock on the door and let them know that you're paying more. So we have replaced a few doing it that way.
That's great.
But it's weird, there's some people that are just never home.
Yeah.
But they're using
Never
water.
Get any contact.
Really don't live here.
I don't know, but I've never seen anybody at some of these houses, but I know somebody's there.
So,
And you have what equipment you need for metering and
Yeah.
findings,
But at some,
pipes and whatever?
yes, I think at some point though. We are gonna have to do something different with the 5 or 6 people that we. Because the handheld. And the pads that you read, I don't know how much longer. You can be able to do that. You know what I mean?
Put a meter pit in for them. We could,
And
did you cut off the
put it in
light?
the budget. Put it in capital budget.
I'm fine with that. It
I'm
makes
just
it
gonna
easier.
print the sales tax. Since we have a little time, I can just go grab it.
There's not that many of them, and. There might be that one house on Jacksonville Road might be hard, because it's like, there's not a lot of room there to put a meter pit, but we can find a spot. If we have to dig up the sidewalk. But that's something we may have to do. Eventually, here, the next few years. And more people are hooking up to the system. So
Great for the system.
it is.
Is it new homes being constructed or switching from the well?
Both, but mostly just people hooking up finally.
A lot of work to maintain your own private well system. It can be, and your water quality. Thank you.
So this is through July, which is the most recent revenue I've received. And it would also be reflected in the August financial statements, which you have in the meeting tomorrow. We're right now I'm projecting a $90,000 over budget.
Wait a minute, let me just go through that.
Well, this is not broken out by fund, this is in total.
I got it.
Okay, so
Your sales tax was basically.
I break out the sales tax by fund through a calculation that just allocates the cost of funds. So what I did is I look at this in total. And if I think we're gonna be 90,000 over the budget, right? Divided by 62. That's 11.7% over budget. And so by fund, I assumed a 10% over budget for each fund from what the budget was.
So can that money be used to make up the 20,000 we need?
Well, that's already calculated in the end of fund balance, end of year projections. So for next year's sales tax, I budgeted 5% more than the current year amount.
Mm.
Because who knows whether we're gonna
Yeah.
be. I budgeted 5% more than the current budget. Not the current projection, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because I don't know if we're gonna maintain this level or not,
Right,
so I'm just being conservative.
yeah,
But that's where we're at, and that's where the numbers come from, and you can see month by month.
yeah,
Compared to the prior year, we've been over 9.5%, 6.6%, 2%. April and May were pretty level. June was 20% over the prior year. July was pretty level. I mean, so when you look at year over year, and then if you look at it compared to a 5-year average, you know, that there's only 1 month where we were lower, most of it is higher,
Yeah.
so. That's what we're looking at for sales tax, and so this projection model looks at. Projecting the revenue based on how much we normally have by this time of this year, if that
Right.
makes sense.
yeah.
Okay, cause obviously it varies seasonally how much sales tax we receive.
But that's a huge, I mean. That's a huge uptick.
Right, Yeah.
And,
so, you know, $90,000 across the townwide,
right,
right,
right.
right.
But you've already taken that into calculation.
I've already taken
to
that
get
into
to
account.
To get the minus 20,000.
Right, but the minus 20,000 is based on our current year levy.
Right,
This extra money is going into fund balance.
Right.
So you could
We could
choose to
choose-
appropriate more fund balance.
right.
Yeah, I mean,
That's what I was getting.
yeah, I
Yes.
think if you look at the fund, like the fund balance chart, the fund balance estimates. For A fund, which is gonna be our biggest driver, like B fund, I would leave. I would leave relatively alone because, in B fund, we can't have reserves. A fund, we can have reserves. We're looking at coming in at the end of the year, and we'll have 43% of appropriations. Even with this budget that we're looking at for 2026, we'll go into 2026 with 43%. And the A fund, where our policy is 20 to 30%. And we have always been high in there and we want to be mindful of drawing down, but the conversation that Blixie and I've had, and I'm hoping to have at the town board level, during public evening meetings is, are there reserves that we want to fund, right? This is a good, fund balance is a good place to start pushing in money into reserves, and it's also, you know, pulling essentially $20,000 out of that, it's gonna be a very negligible amount of that overall fund balance. If we wanted to do that, but I think the idea of going through going through A fund in particular, looking at it at effectively line by line as we'll do
I'm trying to remember what.
at our meeting schedule.
I'm gonna look to see
And
what,
come out of that to see what, what makes sense to save, what makes sense to cut, and then it's not much of a lift to just pull the balance out of fund balance.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. I don't think there's any reason why we can't come under the tax cap this
Right,
year,
yeah.
but I think we should also look at that for the fund balance. Are there reserves that really this would be a good time to start thoughtfully investing in more?
What's the actual advantage of staying under? Do we get any benefit from that?
No, it used to be that like taxpayers would get a
rebate.
rebate. I mean, I think there's a perception value, which in the taxes in New York are just really high. And trying to do whatever we can. I mean, the reality is town taxes constitute a very tiny percentage of somebody's. It's school taxes that are the huge driver, yeah.
Crazy.
So, just to remind everybody, so on Wednesday, our budget meeting is at the same time frame. But it is to talk about the court, the clerk's area, and the B fund, the code enforcement and planning. And the following week on the 17th is when we're gonna cover youth and recreation as well as the remainder of the A fund.
So I'm out of town that week, so I won't be there.
Yeah, so, but,
So it's Wednesday, what time is Wednesday's meeting?
also 9 to 11.
Which was
This is
10.
10 too. Yeah, so we're.
Oh,
starting
sorry,
at-
Wednesday we're
I was gonna
starting.
say,
road
that's what I was
trip,
just double
9
checking my
to
calendar,
11.
yeah.
9 to
Yes.
11 and the 17th is 9 to 11 too.
Yes, 9 to 11, I'm sorry, on Wednesday as well.
It's okay. Town of Ulysses, we'll ground you.
I'm looking right at it, it says 9 to 11, but. Yeah. So,
So I've been appointed at 8:30, so I'll be here since. I've been appointed at 8:30, so I'll be here since.
okay. So, yeah, so that's what we'll be covering at the next two overviews, and then obviously we'll have the finalized tentative budget. Board meeting. I'm trying to remember which board meeting we're taking that to, the 23rd, I believe.
Yeah, second meeting in September.
Yeah,
I won't be on any time.
okay. But that's when we can
She'll be back the
start
25th?
discussing it as a.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's what I meant to bring.
and then I go,
Calendar.
I'm leaving, it's 24th.
Yeah, we're gonna Wednesday.
All right.
Yeah.
The other thing I was gonna do was answer your question, Rich, about the health insurance. While I'm here.
That's right.
My goodness. So. Our share right now of insurance per month is $10,000.
18 to $20,000 increase.
When you factor that in, plus rising
Yeah, 20.
EMS and fire costs.
About 20.
That eats all of your ability to go up. So, I mean, this budget really is a reflection of our revenues have been better, the ones we can control. And ones we can't. But we are, when we go into, especially when we go into B fund and A fund, you'll see revenues that we can control. Our pivot to trying to pass more costs off to the user of specialized services is resulting in helping those funds out, so. Whether it's planning, zoning, building permits to, recreation.
Are we just looking at the fees for that?
I wasn't, we did a pretty sizable shift the last 2 years, and then I was gonna. Well, if I'm here, I was gonna propose like percentage increases for 2026, but that's essentially, those numbers are a little bit. We don't use those to impact, it's almost on a year delay. Because we use the revenues from our revenue estimates from what'll be the end of year this year to suggest
for
the
next
budget
year.
for next year. And then you see that impact like a year later, right, of those fee increases. So it's hard to, because you don't know what fees will get triggered, right? You
Yeah.
don't know what building, so we go percentage base as opposed to like looking at the fees. So my recommendation would be a percentage increase for our fees to keep them timely.
Yeah.
Because what happened before is the town had slipped so far behind in reviewing those fee structures that we had to make some sizable leaps
Right.
Right.
forward,
to
and
just
we don't
keep
want to
it
have
more
to.
I
Steady
thought the
pace.
idea was to try to keep it pretty level with the village as well.
For EMS, we do.
Yeah.
With building permits, we looked more at a modeling, following the city of Ithaca. Not in price point, but how they structure it, so that you get, a base rate plus however many hours of service needed on top. And then starting to allocate, a cost breakdown associated with that. So it's a much more transparent fee structure for the people who are paying, because it actually shows what you're doing. And we were very careful when we've gone through the fee structure is to use the legal logic that you have to correlate time associated with it to justify the fees. We're not just arbitrarily attaching something. And when you do it on that hourly basis, it makes it a lot clearer to the user of the services what the costs are funding, so. because some things we were charging, in building permits in particular, we were charging some flat fees for things that actually took a lot more time than the flat fee was covering. And in some cases, we were actually able to drop the cost because our code officer was like, oh yeah, that only takes like 20 minutes. And I'm like, so why are we charging $200 if it's a 20-minute job? We can actually lower the cost on that. So there was some fluctuation. Try and right size the fees with the actual work necessary. So.
That's all I got for today, unless there's other questions.
Good job, yeah. You guys are trucking along, literally.
Thank you. It's very clear. Thanks with you.
You're welcome.
Are we still doing this meeting or? We can make a motion to adjourn if someone wants to do that. Is
Sure.
there a second? Okay, meeting stands adjourned. If you want to, do you anticipate big changes before our next Wednesday meeting?